So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Navdeep. Navdeep is the Farm Program Chief for the Farm Services Agency, and she'll give us an overview of the programs that are available to help with fire recovery through FSA. Navdeep?
Hello, can you guys hear me okay? All right,
yes, we can.
Okay, I'm going to try sharing my screen, but if we get a lot of feedback and if y'all can't hear me, then I may just switch to just talking about each of the programs and we'll just go from there. Okay, so let's try this, see what happens. Okay, can you guys see my screen? You can see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, okay. So I'm going to focus just kind of an overview of what's available with FSA for wildfire recovery. And this will be just a quick overview, and any questions, any producer-specific questions, those, of course, should go to the local FSA office, to where the producer, has their farming operation. And for FSA, we have a slew of programs that are available for wildfire recovery. A lot of them deal with specifically designed for livestock producers, and we do have some programs that have been implemented in the past for wildfire, like our WIP Plus program, which currently does not cover 2020 wildfire losses. So the WIP Plus program, which is a production loss program, production and vine or tree loss program, does not cover the most recent fires. I know there's a lot of conversation and talk about adding 2020 wildfires to that program, but at this point, 2020 loss is not eligible for WIP Plus. Okay, so ELAP, or Emergency Livestock Honeybees and Farm-Raised Fish program. This is our kind of catch-all program. So anything that's not really covered under any of other programs, it's been kind of put together under this program. So under livestock, for livestock producers, it provides feed loss, grazing losses due to wildfire, and other events as well. This is strictly restricted to private land. So if a producer has land that they graze, that's owned, that's either BLM land or Forest Service land, it's a different program that they would apply under, and I'll get into that a little bit later. It covers both grazing losses on land, and if a producer had stored feed that burned because of the fire, that's also covered here. And then producer can also apply for if they had to purchase additional feed because of an eligible, in this case, in fire. And the software compares the different losses, and it pays the greater of whichever one is the most beneficial to the producer. And it does limit the producer to 180 days of feed loss. So anything more than that, we don't cover, but it will cover them up to 180 days. The grower producer does need to file a notice of loss within 30 days of when the loss becomes apparent. And the grower has to be a livestock operation. It has to be a commercial operation where they're either have a dairy, or they're selling the livestock for food, or it could be sheep or whatever. It can't be any livestock here. It's being raised for your own consumption. It has to be a commercial livestock operation. And then, of course, there's an AGI requirement of 900,000. All right, so the ELAP program also covers the honeybee losses. So it covers losses to the hives or the colony, or if they have feed losses, or if they have to purchase additional feed, that's also covered under the ELAP program. We do cover losses in excess of 22%. That's normal mortality. For honeybees, the producer has to file a notice of loss within 15 days of when the loss becomes apparent. And again, it has to be a commercial operation where you either have the bees for pollinating, or you have it for honey production, or for production of honey to feed other bees. So it has to be some type of a commercial operation. Again, we do have the AGI limit there. This program does not have a payment limitation. The only limitation it has is that the grower can't be, that it has limited to 900,000. As I'm going, if you guys have questions, feel free to, I guess, I don't know if I can see the raised hand, but maybe unmute your phone or unmute your computer and go ahead and ask. Okay, so now, so that's the ELAP program. So now we're going to get into the Livestock Indemnity program. This program basically pays for livestock death in excess of normal mortality. And then it also pays for injured livestock. And for the injured livestock, there is no normal mortality. So if a grower has livestock that was injured due to the fire and they are sold for a less price than they would have been otherwise, then the grower can apply for benefits under that too. And there's a different payment rate based on the type of livestock and the weight range. And that information is available to the growers on the fact sheet that they can get from farmers.gov. Again, they have to file a notice of loss within 30 days of the event, and they do have to provide proof of death or injury of the livestock, and we do take third-party verifications, but they require additional reviews. So in this case, if the producer has livestock that's died because of the wildfire, then we encourage them to take pictures and do whatever they can to support those losses. And sometimes they may not be able to get to where the livestock is or was. In that case, they can provide whatever documentation they have, and the county committee can make a determination based on what was presented to them, and either approve, disapprove, or take additional action on the application. Again, you have to have a commercial operation. It can't be livestock that you had as pets or as your for your own consumption. AGI requirement, of course, applies under this program as well. And then livestock forage program. This program covers grazing losses that are on federal land, where the federal agency prohibits the producer from grazing the livestock for a permit that they had. In this case, again, the benefits are limited to 180 days, and we do require a statement from the federal agency stating why and for how long the producer was prohibited from grazing. For the LFP program, the grower has until, should be January 30th, 2021 to file an application. Again, it has to be a commercial operation, and there is an AGI requirement. Okay, our NAP program, which is FSA's version of crop insurance. It does cover grazing and crop losses due to natural disasters, including wildfires. Of course, the grower or producer has to have purchased the coverage prior to the application closing date. And for grazing losses, for the 2020 grazing losses, the application closing date was September 1st, 2019. And the grower is required to file a notice of loss within 15 days of when the loss becomes apparent. There is an AGI requirement of $900,000 or less. Now, this is the one program where in the past, NRCS has provided us with grazing loss assessments, and that's what we've used to pay the growers for the grazing losses, because those are not Individual loss base, those are county or area wide losses that we look at. And at this time we're trying to work with other agencies to see if we can get those assessments from other sources besides NRCS. Our tree assistance program provides assistance to replant or rehabilitate vines or trees destroyed or damaged by the fire. In this case, the losses have to be in excess of normal mortality, which is 18% for almost all the trees and vineyard and vines. In this case, different than LIP. In this case, the producer has to reach the 18% loss before we even pay for the damaged trees. So you have to lose 18% before the program becomes active for that individual producer. This is a cost share program where we provide assistance. There is a rate per vine or tree that's been established, and there's a land prep per acre that's been established, and we pay a percentage of the established producer incurred costs or our rates that's been established by the agency. The deadline to sign up is within the 90 days of the event or when the loss becomes apparent. This is a program which requires agency to do environmental compliance, so the producer cannot start the project until their application is approved and or until the agencies they've applied and the agencies had the opportunity to do the 850 and give the grower permission to start their project. A field visit by a FSA loss adjuster is required for TAP because we have to verify the loss condition, and we actually have to count how many trees were lost, how many were damaged, and such. So we need to do the field visit before the producer grower does anything with the vineyard or the orchard. Of course, this program again has an AGI of 900,000. There is no payment limitation for this program, but there is a $1,000 acres per year limitation on what we can pay in losses. Okay, our emergency forest restoration program provides payments to eligible non-industrial private forest landowners. And again, we cost share up to 75%. Payment limitation here is 500,000 per person per disaster. And of course, again, we have to do the environmental compliance and all of that before the producer can start the work. The practices, we pay for debris removal. We can help them reestablish the trees that were lost, site prep, all the materials, and restoration of the roads, fire lines, all of that's eligible under EFRP. And the Forest Service is our technical assistance provider for EFRP, and we currently have an active EFRP in Butte County, where Forest Service contracted with the local RCD to provide that technical assistance. And so that's where we are. And I know they're interested in doing, or I know some of the county committees are interested in doing EFRP for the other counties, and we will be looking at that here in the near future. Of course, our emergency conservation program, this is where, NRCS is the technical assistance provider for any, for EC4, I believe, our conservation structures, and NRCS is the agency's technical assistance provider. However, they can help us, and the agency will reimburse for any additional practices where NRCS provides. Is there a question? I'm sorry, was there a question I couldn't hear?
I think somebody isn't muted.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll continue. So ECP basically is designed to bring the land back to pre-disaster condition. So we help with debris removal, fence replacement. Agency recently instituted a policy where the grower can request 25% cash advance on fence replacement, because I know that's something that growers have struggled with in the past, is coming up with the money to start the practice and buy all the supplies to get it going. So the agency does offer 25% cash advance or provide 25% advance. However, there are certain requirements that they have to meet. There's a time limit within they have to spend the money and promise to complete the practice. And so that, of course, those the local FSA will review that with them. Conservation structures, that's basically that's where NRCS is a technical assistance provider. We can help with irrigation systems, whatever need there is, that's determined which is needed and feasible. Cost share is the lesser of 75% of producers' actual costs or agency established costs. And all of our cost share program require the producer to complete the practice, submit their bills, and then we pay cost share. Unlike NRCS, I believe there is you don't request receipts before you issue payments. Under ECP, EFRP, or TAP program, all of our cost share programs, you have to do the work, submit your receipts, and then we pay. For ECP, the deadline to sign up, actually, we're accepting applications now for the most recent fires. A deadline will be announced later by which the application has to be filed, and that'll probably be different for each county depending on when the fire was put out, when the growers were allowed to go back in to assess damage. Again, under ECP, we have to do the environmental compliance before the producer starts the practice, unless it's an emergency situation. And that, even for the emergency situation, the grower or the livestock producer should contact FSA prior to starting their practice, so we can review the requirements or start the environmental process and get that resolved or get that taken care of as soon as we possibly can. Of course, they can't start the practice until the application is approved, unless they get an approval from the county office, based on their emergency situation. There is a payment limitation of $500,000 per person per disaster, and this was increased in the last farm bill. There are no AGI requirements for ECP. Of course, we have our emergency loans that are available to producers, and I'm not an expert on the loan side, but I know there has to be at least a 30% loss, and you can't obtain commercial loan or loan elsewhere. And the deadline to file is 8 months after the disaster event. In this case, anyone who's interested would have to contact a farm loan team, and we have a few. They're not in every office, but every office is handled by a farm loan team. So that was all I had, just a quick overview. And then now I think I will open it up to questions. And then I don't know, Joy, if you wanted me to review the worksheet, the field worksheet, or was there any other specific questions that you had that you wanted me to address?
Why don't we open it up for questions, and then it would be great if you could go over the field worksheet.
Okay.
So if anybody has questions, raise your hand. Okay, James Booth.
Hi, this is James Booth, the DC in Hollister. I wrote a question in the chat, but I'm just going to say it here. Do we have a list of what kind of structures ECP will cover?
Well, can you define like in what we'll cover mostly all conservation structures. Try to stay away from away from like ditches and that sort and culverts and all of that, because it's I think those we'll look at on an individual basis if it's needed or not. But I think mostly your pipelines, your pump, anything with where we're providing water to the livestock or to an orchard or vineyard would be.
This is Chris Keeler. I sent out to Kay the practice guidelines from our ECP handbook, and it does list some of the structures that are eligible and some that are not eligible.
Right.
So just you might take a look at that as well.
Thank you.
Pam?
Yes, hello, Nancy. I'm Pamela Hertzler, and I'm in the Grass Valley NRCS office. I've got a question on the Emergency Forest Restoration Program. And sure. I know you were saying that the Forest Service is going to be your technical service provider on that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I didn't have my laptop open. Okay. So anyways, the question on the Emergency Forest Restoration Program. So my question, because we have our environmental quality incentive program, and we've got a lot of forestry up here. And right now I've got some people that may qualify for catastrophe. But what my question would be, or maybe you won't know either, but what would be the better program for them to apply under? And what is the expected timeline where these particular people may receive some sort of funding from FSA versus us? I know how long it takes for us to get from beginning to end, and it depends on funding also. And then also, are you held up in this program by cultural resources also? Thank you.
Yes. So the funding is just to give you a. So under EFRP in Butte County, we haven't approved any applications yet. We have the funding, just the process of, it'll probably go faster now. This Butte County EFRP was our very first one, so it took a long time to get the technical assistance contract signed and just get that program rolling. So funding is, at this point, funding is not a problem for FSA. As soon as we request the program, we know how many producers are eligible. We can get that funding. But in terms of, we do use NRCS rates. So I don't know that any program is going to be better than the other, but we do have to again comply with the environmental compliance, and we are using RCD to do that part of it, and we're paying them for it. But we are doing the consulting with SHPO on our end, and just it is just taking a long time. So we have the exact same requirements as your program as far as environmental compliance is concerned.
Okay, thank you very much.
Jackie? I think we may have lost Jackie.
Oh, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Oh, we can now.
Okay. I was just wondering for the ECP program, and you kind of touched on this, but for the NEPA compliance in general, not just cultural resources, does FSA do that or NRCS?
Well, you would complete the 52, but any consultation, SHPO consultation that's required, FSA will do that.
So are we not the responsible federal official? Are we not the final signature on that? You guys are? We
Yes,
complete
yep,
it and then you guys do the finding? Okay,
Yes.
great, thanks.
James, do you have another question or is your hand still up?
No, I wanted to follow up on what was just asked. Did we just say NRCS is responsible for filling out the CPA 52s?
Yes. And then we do all the consultation with anyone that's required and sign off on that.
Okay.
Rich?
Could you explain a little bit more in detail about the environmental review process for some of these applications? Is this is more internal, right? Is this FSA and or NRCS environmental review, or is it, you know, other regulatory agency review of the damages?
No, it's just an internal review. It's just we're doing the same review that we do when we fund any project. So just you would complete the 52, and you know, FSA, when we do on our end, we complete the 850. So it's just an internal review, nothing more than that.
Okay, that's a relief. It'll be a relief to our growers too, because they don't like working with the county and other regulatory agencies.
No, it's just an internal review.
Okay.
Jim Howard.
Hello, this is Jim Howard with the Half Moon Bay field office. I'm curious, are any of these programs eligible to non-ag producers?
Not on the FSA then.
So the emergency fire recovery program, that's just land that's designated as NTMP. I guess the ag producer status in that case would be somewhat nebulous.
Yeah, so it doesn't, any grazing land is eligible, anything where there is a commercial operation, a commercial farming operation, would be eligible.
And Navdeep, most committees will determine whether somebody is considered a non-industrial private timberland operator as opposed to a mountain home site.
Right. And yeah, definitely. Each committee will review those requirements, and we don't. So, you should have the intent of selling that forest for money. It can't be your backyard. Yes, committees will have those limitations in place.
Thank you.
James Booth, do you have another question?
No, is my hand still up?
It is.
How do you put it down?
You
Click it again.
hit the hand again. It'll go down. All right. Thank you, Wendy.
Hi, I just wanted to follow up on the CPA 52s, especially for the ECP program. We did not do all of the CPA 52s for the program last time around in 2017, in my experience. So I'm wondering if that's a policy change, and if so, is there going to be another one of those joint memos that comes out that really outlines what the roles of each agency are in delivering the ECP?
Yeah, so nothing has really changed in terms of, nothing's really changed in terms of who's responsible and what the requirements are. Is just that in this case, it kind of depends. Each office does it a little bit differently. Some NRCS offices and FSA, they provide the technical assistance on all ECP practices, and some of them limit it to just the cultural, just the EC4, which is our conservation structures and all. And so nothing has really changed. NRCS is not required to do 52s on all practices, only what's referred to you for determination. Hopefully that answers the question.
Did that answer for you, Wendy?
Hey, Kay, this
So-
is Rayanne. Can I pick up the one piece that Navdeep didn't quite address, but I'm not sure that she or I have any more information to offer in that area. The MOU that Wendy was referring to expired in 2019, but like Navdeep said, we're still operating under the same principles of what agencies' responsibility is. Each agency carries responsibility for, and it's still the same. NRCS completes it just like we're talking about here today. But yes, that last point that Navdeep brought up is the most important one, is that we may not be doing a 52 on every single person's property that we go out and make an initial site visit of. So we're going to wait for them to tell us, this is who we need the 52 on. So it may not be all of everyone that you ever go reach out to. And you definitely want to stay in coordination with FSA.
And I think there was a question on billing. So you would bill us like you do for any other ECP work that you've done in the past. So the billing requirements are the same. I don't know how you all do it on your end, but I know I get an invoice that I sign off on quarterly.
Yes, that's all handled at the state office with Melinda Grow. So she likes to stay abreast of the counties that are looking at ECP work. And so that she has an ability to appropriately invoice FSA for that. So.
Okay, any other questions for Navdeep?
Sorry, this is Wendy again. I raised my hand again because I have another question. I was wondering on the process of a grower applying for ECP, is there an application form that we should be offering folks who we think might be a good fit, or should we just direct them to call the FSA office? What is the process that you would like us to follow?
Yeah, I think, if you're at outreach events and out and about, refer them to the FSA office so we can have a conversation with them to figure out exactly, what they qualify for. The last thing we want to do is promise somebody something and then, they go out and spend the money and it turns out that we don't consider them to be a commercial farming operation. So refer them over to FSA so we can have that conversation with them and get that process started.
Hi, Navdeep. This is Whit in Capitola. I just had a quick question. What does it mean when you say when loss becomes apparent?
It's when you go, it doesn't, sometimes the grower may not be able to get to where they're fired just because of the roads aren't available, or might be a month or so before they actually get out there. So when they notice that they're suffering a loss and they need help.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Carolyn?
Thanks. This is Carolyn in Vacaville, and I saw that we were emailed the ECP on-site inspection form, and I've been told that the landowners really can't start fixing things like fences and tanks and irrigation systems until someone with FSA has seen it and documented it. If NRCS conducts a site visit, does our site visit and inspection, if we use your form, count as that like hold until now date?
Yes, it does. We just want to make sure that the producer has contacted FSA and that before you go out and do a field visit, we want to make sure that FSA's got an application on file that's been referred to you for you to go out and do a field visit. we just want to make sure that the CEDs are, in charge of handling their own office. So I think constant communication with the CEDs is going to be key. So that's why any grower who's interested, have them contact FSA, and then maybe if they know that if they've talked to you already, or you've got a field visit scheduled with them for something else, and you want to offer that help, then just be in touch with the CED there so they know what's going on.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Navdeep.
Oh, sorry, Kay. I couldn't find my hand on my phone.
Okay, we'll go with one more question. We'll do one more and then move on to Rayanne.
Okay. On the emergency waivers that you said that could be granted for ECP, obviously they have to have an application. If the CED is okay with NRCS doing a preliminary site visit because NRC or FSA doesn't have the staff time, at what point could the producer apply to get an emergency waiver for, say, their boundary fence so they can put their cattle back in?
I think as soon as they file an application, and our biggest holdup, our biggest concern is the environmental review, right? So we want to make sure that that's done. So that we've instructed all of our offices to. So the first thing the producer wants to do is contact the CED, tell them that they have an emergency situation, that they've got livestock that need to be fenced in, and that they would like an emergency waiver. And at that point, that will tell the CED that they need to locate this property and start the 850 process. And at that point, same, depending on if they're just replacing the existing fence, they're not doing anything more than that, then the environmental process is pretty easy. It shouldn't take them that long to do it. And the CEDs at that point, once they're done with the 850, they can tell the livestock producers to go ahead and start the fence, with the caveat that we don't have funding available yet. We can't guarantee them funding because we haven't approved the application, we haven't requested the funds yet, but they can start the project.
Thank you for the clarification.
Well, thanks, Navdeep. We will hold questions there. I'm sure there's more, and we'll let Rayanne have a chance to talk about what NRCS has through EQIP, and then Desi with EWP, and we can come back and answer more questions at the end. So thanks a lot for that really good information.
Okay, I'll stay on then.
Okay, can you hear me okay, Kay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So once again, as we're working through this, I just want to say first and foremost that Navdeep and I, we stay in touch on all matters programs related. So if there are ever issues that people are experiencing and the area office might need a little bit of extra help from us to just coordinate things up above, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, because we're certainly happy to do that for you. One of the questions that I saw in the chat that was coming up pretty frequently was in respect to, how long does it take for FSA, a project to get on the ground? And as Navdeep alluded to there at the end, that they can start the project, but they can't guarantee them funding. And Navdeep, one of the questions that I noticed here in the chat was if you have an idea of how long the consultations typically take on your end. It's something that really drags us down on our end, how long those consultations take. So do you have a gauge for that on your side?
We a lot of our work that we do is replacing existing structures, doing work that's, or the ground that's already been disturbed. Mm-hmm. So we don't do a lot of, don't consider doing consulting until we're getting into cleaning up ditches or, doing just big projects, which normally growers really aren't interested in doing with us. Most of our ECP is around fencing, fence replacement, fence repair, putting in troughs, tanks, replacing their existing pipeline or irrigation system. So we don't do, ground up projects under ECP. So our consultation process is not long.
Okay, great. So thank you. Appreciate that. That helps a little bit. So for EQIP, I'll just talk a little bit briefly about that. I get a lot of questions every day about, can we make some money available really quickly for EQIP? And unfortunately, everybody probably realizes we're right at the end of our year. So opening up a new fund at this point in time is not possible for us, because once the fiscal year rolls over, we lose all of our funding. It goes back to the national office and they have to reissue it again after the beginning of the fiscal year. That in combination with the fact that we have a new process through our CART ranking system that requires us to have a national template available to build a ranking tool and announce a program. So the Regional Conservationist Office is going to be having a call with all Western states, because all of the Western states are being impacted by wildfires right now. And they're going to develop a process for us to move through to offer emergency assistance funding earlier than we would typically expect for EQIP rollout this year. We don't have any details on that. They're still establishing it for us. The emergency template that they've made reference to, I have not seen yet, but apparently it does require some customization. So once we get through that process, we will be able to announce a sign up for that program. We take applications all year round. That's NRCS. That's what we do. People can apply at any time. As far as installing the work early, this is going to be something that we do have to discuss here at the leadership level. We do have early start waivers that are an option. All of our clients are still subject to the NEPA requirements for consultation. So if a consultation is required, you really have to weigh whether or not an early start waiver is going to help that producer. So just take that into consideration and have those conversations with your biologists and your cultural resource specialists as you're working through this to see what the timeline might be on some of those. The Ecological Sciences Division up here is already working on a strategy to develop a template FMP that would be applicable post-fire recovery, and it would help streamline the state and how we're addressing those best management practices during a fire, and really speed things up for a lot of our producers where their FMP is not really applicable any longer after a fire situation. So our ecological science people are working on the technical side of the support criteria that you would need for working with producers. The programs team is working on developing a package to be delivered as it is practically feasible. We are held to a 30-day public announcement still. We can get that waived if we have time to do it. So I know that we're going to have that as soon as we can possibly get it built. So I would just let your landowners know that you're working on the technical side of this right now. As soon as there's a program ready to go, you guys will be able to rank it and let them know if they can get selected for funding. Again, early start waivers, work with your clients on understanding the cultural resources review process and whether or not it's going to apply to the project that they're working on. So we are also discussing at the state level, because you can't really disassemble a single contract and say, well, this one practice doesn't necessarily require cultural resources review, but these other three do. That's really challenging to implement any portion of a contract before the review is completed. So we're talking about that to try to find options for you all to use in dealing with that particular issue, because if some erosion control is the most critical need and it's not really a soil disturbing activity, we should just be able to get out on that right away. So keep all of that in mind. We want to work with you. We want to be as flexible as we can be within our policy. We're willing to ask for policy waivers if needed. So just keep that all in mind as we work through this. So that's for the catastrophic fire fund pool. I did not have a PowerPoint created for this because there is nothing solid really that I can point you to other than last year's program description. And last year's program description is posted online still on our SharePoint site. And it's, as far as I know, there's no major revisions that are going to be happening to that. If there is something you are aware of that needs to change for that, please be in conversation with Chris Zemny and or myself and Amber Till, and we will make sure that we take those suggestions into consideration. Kate, I see hands flying up. Are you gonna do the facilitation there?
Wendy?
It's always me. There was some EQIP information that went out that was advertising grazing deferment. Is that really a thing, or is that sort of an artifact of an old press release that somehow got into a new press release?
Do you have the press release?
I can probably find it. It's been reposted, unfortunately, on our county's wildfire recovery site, and I'm like, oh, crud. I don't think we have that. So I don't know if you know if there's a grazing deferment.
Yeah,
payment.
you know, I just came back from a few days off. Boy, I don't recommend taking time off right now. This is ringing a bell for me. So that may be the press release that went out with a mistake. I have heard of one that did go out. So let me look into that, Wendy. And if you have the press release, send it to me. I'm making a note here.
All right, I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, and I will get back with Kay on that issue. Okay, any other questions about EQIP, the catastrophic fire fund pool, how that's going to move forward? Really, there are no ridiculous questions in my book. I hope you all know that about me. You can ask anything.
James Booth.
Thank you. Hey, Rayanne, if you already covered this and I missed it, I apologize. What do you anticipate will be the NRCS response to people who've lost structures that we paid for or are already under contract?
Great question. So we do have flexibilities if they're already inside an existing contract. So just make note of those. And if you have more than one person that's impacted, or EK, maybe even for you, that would just be a good thing to understand for the area, how many existing structures under a current contract have been destroyed by a natural disaster. We do have some flexibilities there. Part of that comes out of our allocation. So we're going to need to be aware of the value of those structures. As you all know that we have to rely on previous year funds to modify contracts. So it's just good for us to have an idea of what we're looking at. Thanks, James. Good comment.
Amy?
Hey, Rayanne, kind of on James's topic, if it's a completed contract, I've been told that the only possibility is to reapply for catastrophic fire. Is that correct? Or ECP if it's offered?
Yeah, if it's a completed contract, we really don't have any authority to do anything with it any longer, unfortunately.
All right, well, let's quickly hit maybe some highlights of EWP with Desi. And Ray, if you want to stick around in case there's any wrap-up questions, how's that?
Thanks sure a lot. Will.
All right, I will run through this quickly. Hi, everybody. This is Desi Ramirez, the Area 2 area engineer. I'm going to briefly go through the funding that's available with EWP, Emergency Watershed Protection. And I'm not going to go through too much on, programmatic, like how the program works. That would take a lot longer. So I'm available for Area 2 for questions on all of those type of things. And the area engineers in general are the lead for your areas on EWP. So anyway, EWP allows communities to quickly address threats to life or property, mainly structures the threats that result from natural disasters. Unlike some of our other programs, EWP requires a sponsor. So we work with the sponsor. We don't work with the landowner or the property owner. Sponsors are typically some type of entity like a city, a county, state, tribal government, or a special district. And you'll see there I have a reference to the manual, and I'm going to just show you where you can find the EWP manual, since I will have highlights of where I got this information for you. Let me move to the next slide. Sorry about that. The manual is in our favorite place, e-directives, under manuals, under Title 390. Here you have your EWP program. So everything I'm going to be showing you in this presentation, I will hopefully have a reference that would go into all the nitty-gritty about it. So the eligibility for requirements for EWP, there has to be some sort of natural disaster. It can be federally, state, or locally declared. And there also has to be an imminent threat to life or property. And I have imminent threat highlighted because that is typically defined as a threat that would come with the next storm event, basically. And then these projects are installing emergency measures to protect property to pre-disaster conditions. And I have emergency measures highlighted there because a lot of times these measures are temporary to provide protection until the watershed recovers. The type of eligible measures, there's that policy reference because this is a really trimmed down explanation of it, and there's a lot more detail there fully in the manual, but I didn't want to overwhelm you with all of that. So I'm really focusing on typical measures that are used post-fire. So typically after a post-fire, we're trying to protect remaining structures from debris flows or excessive runoff from the watershed. And that is done with K-rail or large concrete block installations, sandbag installations, debris basins or debris nets, and then sometimes debris removal as well. These measures have to be economically, socially, environmentally, and defensible, and also technically sound, obviously. So I have economically highlighted because there is a cost-benefit analysis that's done for each of these projects. And so that's where the economics of the project comes in. Here's a very long list from the manual of the limitations. There's 13 main limitations that are defined in the manual. And this is, obviously I've really abbreviated the explanation of each of the limitations. But if you'd like to read the manual and see those limitations, as well as how they define exceptions to the limitations, that is your policy or your manual reference. So a couple of the things I've highlighted here, roads are typically not eligible with EWP, as well as problems existing prior to the disaster. So those are some things to keep in mind. I know there's a lot here, but I am trying to move quickly so we have time for more questions at the end. Let's see the time. All right. Cost share It's typically a 75%, 25% cost share. There is the potential for NRCS to provide 90% for limited resource areas, but typically it's 75% provided by NRCS, and then the sponsor provides 25%. But it's good to note that usually the sponsors don't have it in their budget to cover the 25% for the landowners or the property owners. So they usually do have a side contract or agreement with those individuals to collect that 25% for the project. They either provide the cash or in-kind services for their 25%. All right, so a quick summary. EWP is a coordinated effort with our field office, area office, and state office. The contracts are all handled through the state office, so but locally in the field, we do field work. The area office, like myself and others, help a lot with this program, so please reach out to us. A local sponsor is required. The program protects remaining structures from damage, and it's typically a 75-25 cost share. All right, I know that was really fast, but I wanted to breeze right through it. So.
All right, thanks, Desi. Any questions for Desi? Phil.
Yes, I saw on the list that there you didn't mention rock riprap. That used to be a popular practice in EWP. Is that no longer an allowed practice, rock riprap?
It is. It's just not as typical in post-fire situations. We do have that a lot for post-flooding or those type of EWP projects.
All right, Drew. Drew Mather.
Hey, Desi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for doing this. You mentioned imminent threat. I just was curious as to who decides if that's an imminent threat. Is that a joint decision between NRCS and the sponsor, or
yes.
How does that work?
Yes, it is. That's a joint decision.
Okay. And then also I have one other question. You mentioned limited resource areas. I'm curious how that was determined.
That's determined based on the most recent census data, and there's a few criteria, about 3 criteria in the manual on how that's determined.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Amy?
Might be on mute, Amy.
Thank you. 2 quick comments. One, quick success story on our EWP. We had engineers go out and evaluate all the sites. One of them, the landowners were there. They actually did exactly what the engineers told them to. Unfortunately, that kicked them out of EWP, but it essentially saved their house and the things worked great. So it turned into CTA, which was good. The other comment, and this is a general comment, I know this was really FSA and NRCS. If it's possible to get a updated flyer on rural developments, I know that they don't deal with private landowners, but sometimes you come across nonprofits and stuff that could fall into some of their emergency programs. I don't have a recent one.
All right, we'll see what we can do, Amy. Thanks. And thank you, Desi. I know we are at 2 o'clock. Is there any last burning questions for Navdeep or Rayanne? If not, I want to say first, and I should have said this up front, a special thank you to Chris Keeler, my counterpart with FSA. Chris helped me organize this. I think this was extremely beneficial. The handouts that Chris sent me, Desi has posted in the chat, so you can download them. I know for outside speakers, you cannot, but work with your local field office to get them if you would like the handouts. So with that, any last comments, Navdeep or Chris?
No, just thanks for volunteering to help FSA on with ECP. We really appreciate the help and looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Well, and Rayanne, any last comments for you?
No, I'm good. Just to stay in touch and we'll help out as much as we can.
Yeah. Well, and something that we have learned from our previous fire experience is ECP is a lot easier to use than EQIP. So I encourage our field staff to work closely with your CED and your FSA office to provide the needed assistance to our customers. So with that, I appreciate everybody's participation today. If you have questions, leave them in the chat and we'll get back to them. Thanks all and have a great day.
Thanks.